Problem 1, operation. So we got Little Banana Corp., Amazing Cherry Corp., and Lemon Lime form Fruit Roll-Up General Partnership to work together on edible fruit art, a revolutionary new product. Little Banana Corp. has a 7/31 fiscal year end. Amazing Cherry Corp. has a 1/31 fiscal year end. And Lemon Lime is a calendar year individual. What is Fruit Roll-Up General Partnership's required taxable year if the partners share profits and capital in the following alternative proportions? Okay, so I'm just going to label these scenario A, B, and C to make it a lot easier for us to understand. Let's start off A. So we're told that Little Banana owns 60% of the ownership of the partnership, and that's partner share of profits and capital. Amazing Cherry has 20% and Lemon Lime has 20%. So, partnership year end. We find the rules, the general rules that apply under section 706B. So it's a waterfall rule, which means there's 3 rules and you proceed down the waterfall until you meet the criteria that matches. If you don't meet test 1, you go to test 2. Don't meet test 2, test 3 always works. So test 1 is called the majority partner test. It's more than 50% of capital and profits if it's the same year end. If it's the same year end, you use that year end. So to remind ourselves, Little Banana Corp. has a 7/31 fiscal year end. Amazing Cherry Corp. has a 1/31 fiscal year end. And Lemon Lime is calendar year, which means 12/31, December 31st. So if we go through our waterfall, right, the first stop is greater than 50% of capital and profits. If a partner or partners together have the same year end and their ownership is more than 50% of capital and profits, you use that year end. Now in this problem, we've got 3 partners with 3 different year ends. So we're not going to lump them together. But if you do have a problem with multiple partners with the same year end, you lump them together for purposes of this analysis, this calculation, all 3 of these tests. So we look at the ownership. And because they all have different year ends, the only way the first test would work is if one partner has more than 50%. And look at this. Little Banana has 60%, more than 50%. So the answer to A is the first test applies in the waterfall, in the section 706B waterfall, right? The majority partner test. And therefore, the partnership required year end is Little Banana's year end, which is 7/31, July 31st. So A is easy. A is easy. Let's move on to B. So B, now the ownership percentages change. We've got 50% Little Banana, 30% Amazing Cherry, and 20% Lemon Lime. So we go to our waterfall because we're determining the required year end, right? The required taxable year end. So we go to our first test because, again, all 3 owners have different year ends. You're looking for an owner that has more than 50%. Well, guess what? Nobody has more than 50%. Little Banana has exactly 50%. You need more than 50%. Amazing Cherry, Lemon Lime all have less than or equal to 50%, right? So nobody has more than 50%, and you can't lump people together because they don't have the same year end. So therefore, for B, test 1 fails. So let's go with test 2. Test 2 is called the principal partner test. It says all partners, all is the key. All partners that own 5% or more of capital or profits. If they have the same year end, you use that year end. Well, they all have 5% or more ownership. And they all have different year ends, so you can't use that one. So this would apply if you had some type of partnership. Let's say you have, a few hundred partners. Many partners are, 1-2% owners, or less than 1% owner. We'll just say, make it easy. Maybe you got two partners that are 12 and 13% owners, which obviously together, 25%. There's so many different year ends that nobody has a majority meets the first test. But for the second test, you've got the two owners, 12 and 13%, which equal 25 together, but they'll both have more than 5, they both have 5% or more. They both have the same year end. Let's assume you use that year end. That's the principal partner test. But that fails here. So then we go to test 3. So test 3 is always works if you get to it, right? You go in order. It's called the least aggregate deferral test. And the idea here is we're going to test each year end using a weighted average approach or weighted percentage approach. And the year end that has the least amount of deferral is the one that's going to be the year end for the partnership. So for this one, we have to create a chart. Okay? So our least aggregate deferral, we create a chart. And what we're going to do is we've got Little Banana. I'm just going to denote Little Banana as B. Amazing Cherry, C. And then Lemon Lime, we'll just call L. So we've got 3 year ends, right? We've got 3 year ends to test. And we're going to start in order of what's given to us. We've got the 7/31 year end. We've got the 1/31 year end. And we have the 12/31 year end. Okay, we have to test all 3 of those. Now the key is with respect to the year ends that we're testing, we have to look at each respective owner, right? We got B, we have C, and we have L. And we're going to multiply for B, we're going to multiply 2 things together. We're going to multiply the number of months of deferral and the percentage ownership by B, given to us in scenario B. Okay? So we do the same thing for C and the same thing for L. So I'm going to go ahead quickly and just kind of fill in these items. So let's fill in the ownership. When B for all, Little Banana B for all of these has 50% ownership. So I'm just going to put 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. C has 30%, so we'll put 0.3, 0.3, 0.3, and L has 0.2, 0.2, and 0.2. All right, so here's the most difficult part for students, professionals, whoever, is remembering this. You are now, in the brackets that are still open, you are now going to insert the number of months that month at issue provides deferral. So what I do now is I put at the top here the year end of the partner. So we got 7/31 for B, Little Banana, right? We've got 1/31 for L. Sorry, my apologies. C, Amazing Cherry. And Lemon Lime, we've got 12/31. And you're going to count from the year end at issue, which is on the left side. That's this over here, right? The year end at issue. You're going to count from that year end to the partner's year end. And the reason why you count to the partner's year end is because think about this example. If a partnership, if it concludes partway through a year, right? Let's say the partnership, just making it easy, let's say the partnership year end is 12/31. I'm not saying that's going to the answer is going to be. I'm just giving you an example of how this works. So let's say the partnership is a 1/1 to 12/31 year end. And let's say we are B. Well, B's year end starts August 1st and ends 7/31, July 31st. So the idea is like, let's say this is year 2 for the partnership. And this is year 3 for, let me do some different colors here to give you an idea. And this is year 3 for B, little banana. Well, the idea is that, switching colors. The idea is that, okay, well, the year 2 return ends for the partnership ends here. It's not going to get reported until 7/31 for little banana. It gets pushed all the way until that period of time. So that's what we mean by deferral. So we're trying to, this test minimizes, and it wants to pick the one that on aggregate with percentages, it limits the amount of deferral. Because when you think about little banana, what is ideally the best case scenario in terms of a year end for little banana? Not of the 3 ones here, just any year end. No, understanding that that the only year ends you can have are at the end of the month. The best case scenario for little banana is that the year end happens on August 31st, right? Why? Because then it gets pushed all the way into next month and you have 11 months of deferral. Does everyone see that? If you have exactly the same as your date, there's no months of deferral. You have to report it at that same time. So if we pick 7/31 or that's where the required year end is, that means that B has no months of deferral. And that's why you count this direction. You use the year at issue and you count from that date until that partner's year end. So let's do this. So for B, if we're considering a 7/31 year end, 7/31 to 7/31 is 0 months. 7/31 for C to 1/31. Let's count it out, right? July 31st, we got August, September, October, November, December, January. We got 6 months. And then 5 months for L because that's 12/31. So you count from the date to the potential year end to the partner's year end because you're pushing it. You're talking about deferral when they're going to actually report it on their tax return. Let's do 1/31. So January 31st to July 31st, right? We got February, March, April, May, June, July. That's 6 months. 1/31 to 1/31 for C is 0. And then 1/31 to 12/31, that's going to be 11 for L. For lemon lime. Now we got 12/31, of course 0 for L. 12/31 to 1/31, right? You got December 31st, January, it's 1 month. And then 12/31 to 7/31, you count that out. So you got January, February, March, April, May, June, July, 7 for little banana. Now what we do is we calculate, you multiply, for example, 7/31, you got 0.5 times 0 is 0, plus 0.3 times 6 is 1.8, plus 0.2 times 5 is 1. So that gives us, what is that, 2.8? 2.8 when you test 7/31. 1/31, you do the same analysis. You got 3 plus 0 plus 2.2 is 5.2. And then 12/31, you got 3.5 plus 0.3 plus 0 is 3.8. You pick the least of those 3, which is 2.8. So 7/31 picks the least amount of deferral. Now, it just so happens that in this one, it's who has the highest percentage. But if there's someone that has maybe a little bit lower percentage than the person that has the highest, but they have more months of deferral, it could stop that year end. So it's not just a function of percentage. Now, if you have someone that has, like here, 50%, and the other ones have 30 and 20, it's probably going to be that. But if it's closer, right? If you have 40, 40, 10, then that one might be, it's more challenging. Or 40, 35, 15, that one could be more challenging. Or 40, 40, 20, sorry, and 40, 35, 25, right? Yeah, 45, 35, 20, yeah. 45, 30. All right, so that is B. The last thing is C, and then we'll be done with this problem. C is quick. So for C, basically it says, okay, we just went through A and B, the required year end. Let's say that we change up the business, right? It was a edible fruit art business, which isn't really an industry where it has a specific, cyclical type of business activity. Let's assume now we change it up, fruit roll-up, general partnership. The business activity is now preparation of tax returns, which most tax return preparation businesses, they do most of their work January through April, right? Yes, I know the bigger accounting firms, they do most of their tax work in the end because of extensions. But most tax return businesses out there in the world, they do most of their business in the early part of the year, the regular filing deadline. So what taxable year might it prefer, right? Well, thinking about our exceptions to our rules, and is that choice available to it? Well, the required year end, let's say we're B. The required year end under A and B is 7/31, right? We picked 7/31 in A and B. So if we were to pick a year end earlier in the year, would it be more beneficial to the parties? Yes. Of course, B would not have a 7/31 year end. C would have longer months of deferral, and so would lemon lime. So if you could do earlier in the year, it's better for all three parties. So if you are a tax return business, and most of your business is done January through April, probably end of January through April specifically, because you're not getting that information just yet. You're probably doing 25% or more of your gross receipts. Let's just say, be conservative, April 30th. In March and April, you're probably doing a very big chunk of your work in that time for tax return preparation businesses. Even if you do extensions later on, you're just a regular tax return preparation business. So it's probably likely that in March and April, you meet this criteria. Okay? So if they want to pick a 4/30 year end, which is more beneficial, they can do so because it's very likely they have 25% or more of their gross receipts in March and April. Before I conclude, there's one thing I didn't stress, and that is when we look at these months of deferral, I've been mentioning that, generally speaking, the taxpayer wants to defer as long as possible. That's because the general rule, time value of money, right? You rather pay later, as late as possible if you, for example, you have taxable income, rather than earlier, time value of money, right? $1 of tax payment or tax savings today is worth more than $1 in the future, and delaying tax payments is more valuable if we can push that as far forward into the future. All right, so that really concludes the problem. Please continue watching the operations videos.